This video shows how to activate the text-to-speech engine with MobiCall. To generate a voice message from the dynamic message received during an alarm, start it and send it to the alarm recipients. Requirements here are a MobiCall text-to-speech license and the TTS engine license. NewVoice currently works with the engine from Nuance. The voices can be tested on the Nuance homepage. It is necessary to let NewVoice know which voice is to be used at the customer's site, as NewVoice needs to request the license and send it to the partner. Make sure to download the proper voice and language before starting the installation. The text-to-speech program can be found on the NewVoice FTP server under Public, Additional Software TTS Nuance. Start by installing the Nuance text-to-speech engine. For this, execute the downloaded voice package. The English voice Zoe is used here. On the welcome page of the language installer, start the installation by pressing the next button. Pause on the next page. You will find the license agreement. Read it carefully and accept the license agreement. If not, the text-to-speech engine can't be installed. Press the next button to continue. On the next page it is defined where the text-to-speech engine should be executed. Change the path if necessary and press the next button. On the last page of the installation program, it will show the Start menu folder which is created by the installer. Start by pressing the Install button. The files will be extracted into the selected directory. When finished, a new program appears. This is called Mini Speech Setup. Start by pressing the Next button. If necessary, change the directory to install the Mini Speech software, then click Next. On the next page can be selected whether to create a desktop icon or a quick launch icon. Activate the checkbox, if necessary. It is not necessary for the use of MobiCall. On the last page is shown again which Start menu folder will be created. Continue by pressing the Install button. When finished, Windows may try to install the Net Framework 3.5. For proper work, install it from the Nuance engine and finish the installation by pressing the Finish button twice. Now that the text-to-speech engine is installed, it must also be activated and licensed on MobiCall. To enter the text-to-speech engine license, open the Windows menu and search for the program Ivona Voice Pack register code. Open it and enter the license code you received from NewVoice into the text input field, followed by a click on OK. You should get positive license information from the tool. If you don't have the text-to-speech engine license, please contact NewVoice support. Now that the text-to-speech engine is installed, it must also be activated on MobiCall page. Open up the NewVoice Setup wizard and switch to Additional Components on the left side. The first checkbox Activate the text-to-speech functions to generate alarm voice files is for the MobiCall TTS interface. Activate it and press the Apply button. A new setting tab has opened on the left side. It's called Text-to-Speech Settings. Here is defined how and which text-to-speech should be used by MobiCall. In the drop-down menu needs to be selected whether a text-to-speech engine from Liquendo or a text-to-speech engine with SAPI is used. For Nuance, select the TTS engine with SAPI. By default, you should see the correct voice below. If not, it must be set. Open the extended settings for the selected text-to-speech engine by pressing the Settings button. Select the previously installed voice from the drop-down menu available here. The volume can also be adjusted. These settings are general settings and are used for all voice files on this MobiCall system. The same counts for the rate. By default it is set to normal, but the voice can be made faster or slower. By pressing the button Default below, the values are set to default. The lexicon can be used to define what different letters mean for the text-to-speech engine, which is opened by pressing the lexicon button. This is empty by default, but some examples can be viewed by clicking on Add. With the field below, the text-to-speech can be tested. For this, simply enter a text in the text field and press the Play on loudspeaker, only to be pressed if a loudspeaker is present, or the Dial and Play button to play the message on the speaker or to call a defined phone from MobiCall to test the engine. Write Test Text-to-Speech and click button if you test this and you receive the previously entered text as voice file. Everything went well. If something should not work properly here, please contact NewVoice support. It is also possible to let a remote server generate the voice files with text-to-speech and save them again on this server. To do this, activate the last checkbox of this page. Start specified TTS generation also on a remote server and activate TTS generation started from a remote server for this server, followed by entering the remote IP address and starting the program in the NewVoice Auto Start. Keep this setting on default, if not needed. Save your settings by pressing the OK button on the bottom of the page. Now the settings you just made must be activated. By default, a pop-up window appears with the following message: for the modified settings to be activated, the TTS application needs to be restarted. Restart the TTS application now, press the Yes button. MobiCall should now have already restarted the text-to-speech program. To be sure, open the NewVoice line monitor. Press the System button in the upper left corner, followed by pressing Auto Start. Since the text-to-speech program has been activated, you will find NVTSLOC7.exe or NVTTS-API-exe, depending on which engine you are using. Select it and press the Restart button on the right side. If the text-to-speech engine is started properly, it can be defined. Open the NewVoice Setup wizard again and press the Settings button. Extended Settings for the Dynamic Alarm Voice Message Generation. Here you can define for which alarms a voice file should be generated dynamically. With the first checkbox, the text-to-speech dynamic voice file generation can be deactivated and activated. Since it has already been activated, the checkbox should be active. If this checkbox is now active, MobiCall will generate a new dynamic voice file for each alarm that is launched, if the dynamic voice files should not be generated for each alarm. This can be achieved by activating the checkbox specify an alarm range where the dynamic message generation is active below. Once it is active, there are two more possibilities to set it up. The first is to give a global alarm range in the now active fields from alarm key and to alarm key. If there are only some special alarm ranges which are not attached to each other but need also dynamic voice files, this can be set up by pressing the Alarm Range Settings button. Here again, a global alarm range can be defined, including specific alarm ranges below. Save the made settings by pressing the OK button below. The following settings are active by default. Wait for alarm WAV file to be generated before continuing the alarm. If this is activated, the alarm won't be processed unless a WAV file has been created from text-to-speech. Do not generate a static alarm message if the file already exists for the alarm. Also, static WAV files can be used on MobiCall. If this checkbox is activated, MobiCall will check if the launched alarm has assigned a WAV file. If one already exists, there won't be any new static WAV files from text-to-speech. Also active by default is the setting replace strings in message with other defined strings. With this setting, strings can be merged. For example, by receiving one OG from the third-party system and replacing it with first floor. Add new replacements by entering them in the fields at the bottom of this window and pressing the Add button. There are two more checkboxes on this page. The first one is always generate voice file as a dynamic alarm WAV file. With this option, the active MobiCall always generates a dynamic WAV file on alarm start, regardless of whether a voice file is already existing or not. With the last checkbox only generate WAV file for dynamic text messages, MobiCall will never create static messages via text-to-speech engine. Save the made settings by pressing the OK button at the bottom of the page. Back in the NewVoice Setup wizard, there is another button called Monitor. Press this button to see the text-to-speech monitor. Here you can find each generated WAV file and also create a test file. Simply enter a location and a file name in the field Generate WAV file, enter a text in the field Text to generate and press the Generate button. You will see a status on top. If the WAV file can't be created, check the error message and contact NewVoice support.